Well, welcome back to Power to Change podcast. This is a production of Warriors Heart USA and Power to Change LLC. Each week, we get together to explore our journey of Sometimes You Win and Sometimes You Learn, which is a 13 episode series. Now, at Warriors Heart USA and Power to Change, we believe that a man's soul is worth fighting for. So we're poised to offer our listeners resources to learn how to live an intentional life. We've been moving right along here, exploring the 11 key principles for drawing wisdom from our experiences. So let's go ahead and get started with this week's topic, adversity. Now, when you talk about adversity, can you think of anyone in your life or anyone that you admire who overcame great odds and trials? What lessons did you learn from the difficulties that they faced? What adverse situations have you been through, and how did these jumpstart your learning? You know, there are times that people are known to change, and that's when they hurt enough and they have to. Adversity, unfortunately, causes pain, and it's a prompter for change to occur. Most of the time, we don't choose our adversity, but we can choose how to respond to it. If we respond to our difficulties positively, in a positive nature, the outcome tends to be positive. However, the reverse is true. If we respond negatively, or we don't respond at all, the outcome will be negative. So then I would say our response falls under what is referred to as the if factor. If we respond positively, if we don't respond or we respond negatively. You see, extraordinary people survive under the most terrible circumstances, and then they become extraordinary because of it. This is a saying of Robertson Davies. So let me take a moment here and share a story with you. It's kind of an analogy of adversity. Now, there's this young lady who was complaining to her dad about her life and how hard things were for her. Adversity in her life was so overwhelming that she just wanted to quit. She wanted to give up. Her dad patiently sat there and listened, and then he responded. He pulled out 3 pots, and he filled each with water and brought each to a boil on the stove. In each pot, he placed, in individual pots, in one, he placed carrot slices. In another, he placed eggs. And finally, in the last one, he put coffee grounds. Now, he let them simmer for a few minutes after boiling, and then he placed these 3 containers in front of his daughter. He asked her, "What do you see?" Her response was obvious. "I see carrots, eggs, and coffee." So he encouraged her to feel the carrots. She picked up a piece, and it was squishy between her fingers. He said, "Now examine the eggs." She picked up one and broke the shell, and it was hard-boiled inside. Finally, he asked her to sip the coffee. She smiled as she tasted the rich flavor. She goes, "So what does this all mean?" Dad responded with, "Honey, each ingredient was subject to the same thing, which is boiling water, but each reacted differently. The carrots went in hard, and after being exposed to the boiling water, they became soft. The egg was fragile with its outer shell, and it had a liquid interior, but it became hardened. The ground coffee beans changed a little, but they changed the water for the better. Dad asked his daughter, "Honey, which one are you? When you face adversity, how do you respond? Are you a carrot, an egg, or a coffee bean?" Now, folks, life is filled with adversity. We can be squashed by it. We can allow it to make us hard, or we can make the best of it by improving the situation. Great Britain had a prime minister by the name of Winston Churchill, who is oftentimes quoted by a lot of his great sayings. But one time he noted, I have derived a continued benefit from the criticisms at all periods of my life. And I do not remember any time when I was ever short of it. Folks, when you face adversity, why not make the best of it? You know, there are advantages to adversity. And I want to share with you 5 qualities that you can identify. Actually, that you can identify with. You see, adversity introduces us to ourselves. It's an opportunity for self-discovery. Now think about it. When you go off track and you appear to be lost, do you sometimes learn that the road to success is not always a road? How about when you're exhausted and frustrated? Have you learned that when times get tough, it's not time to stop trying? What's the old saying? When the going gets tough, the tough get going? How about when you're discouraged with the progress of your projects or your life? You do not let what you are doing get you before you get to doing it. When you fail, you learn that you will not be judged by the number of times you fail, but by the number of times that you win. Let me ask you, what ways do you make the best of a difficult situation? Because you see, adversity will introduce you to tenacity, creativity, and focus. Sam Lover once said, circumstances are the rulers of the weak, but they are instruments of the wise. Now, the second quality I want you to evaluate is adversity is a better teacher than success. What value do you place on your mindset during an adverse situation? Oprah Winfrey once said, turn your wounds into wisdom. Did you know adversity comes to us as a teaching tool? There's an old saying that when the student is ready to learn, the teacher will come. It's not completely accurate, because you see, when adversity comes, it doesn't care if you're ready or not. Adversity may be the teacher, but those who are ready to learn will learn, and those who are not won't. Philosopher Emmett Fox said, it is the law that many difficulties that come at you at any time, no matter what they are, must be exactly what you need at that moment to enable you to take the next step forward by overcoming them. Think about this. The only real misfortune, the only real tragedy that comes with adversity is when we suffer without learning a lesson. So the key to avoiding a tragedy is being in a position where you want to learn from life's difficulties. Now, there's a third quality. Adversity opens doors for new opportunities. Excuse me. Are all mistakes bad? Look at it this way. They're opportunities to learn. My son plays college level football at a D1 school. And every Monday, the Monday after a game, they're sitting in the coach's office reviewing films, looking at their performance at the game. They are learning from the mistakes that they made during the game, during the challenge. So what happens when you face adversity? Let's be honest. You have a choice. You can give up or you can learn from it. And also, do you ever see adversity being an advantage? Adversity can teach us a lesson. Think about this. Mistakes teach us what we didn't know. It's a life lesson. So when we encounter adversity, we usually have two choices, don't we? We can let it get us down and we can feel defeated, or we can embrace it and learn from it. Because each adversity brings opportunity. Now, there's a fourth trait. Adversity can signal a coming positive transition. The life of a successful person is comprised of one transition after another, because being static isn't an option in life. That's what John Maxwell shared with us. So let me ask you a question. Do you let pain stop you from doing what you want and need to do? Who do you know that has ever said, I'm going for second place? Now, I want to share a story about my son, Payne. Growing up, Payne was a baseball player, and he's a great baseball player. But I remember one time he was playing with this team that had won the state championship 3 times in a row, and they were going on to play in the regionals, and if they won that, they would go on to play in the National World Series for youth baseball. They fought hard all the way to the regional games, and they fought hard in the regional game, and they lost. They came in second. I remember they handed out the trophies to the regional champions, big hoo-hoo-ha, woo-ha. And then they called the team that was the runner-up, and they literally handed them a trophy that said runner-up. They handed one to each boy on the team and the coaches. When all the ceremony and all the attention was over with, the kids started going back to collect their gear. And I noticed on the field there was a trophy standing there, all alone along the baseline where my son's team had been standing. I thought maybe one of the boys had forgotten it, so I went and picked it up, and I walked to the dugout, and I said, "Whose is this?" And one of the boys said, "Well, Mr. Bauer, that's Payne's. That was my son's." I looked at Payne. I said, "Is this yours?" He goes, "No." He goes, "I didn't come here for a second place trophy. I came here for a championship trophy." My initial reaction is I wanted to get angry with him, but I didn't, because I understood what his mindset was. He didn't want to be second place. He wanted to be a champion. In his mind, he was a champion. And that's how he approaches life, as a winner. He learns from everything. You know what? And I'm going to digress a minute. And that's one of our problems today with our participation trophies. You get a trophy for showing up. So let me ask you this question. Do you compete to win, or do you compete to survive? No one ever says, I'm playing to be second, just like the story I told you about Payne. Or I'm interviewing for a new job to come in second because I don't really want the job. Remember the old saying that being close only counts in hand grenades and horseshoes. So let me ask you this. How do you plan for pain? You have to understand it's coming, so I would suggest that you plan for it. What are you willing to endure in order to be who you want to be? Now, James Allen had a saying. He says, let a person rejoice when confronted with obstacles, for it means that he has reached the end of a particular line of indifference or folly and is now called to summon up all his energy and intelligence in order to extricate himself and to find a better way, that the powers within him crying out for a greater freedom, for an enlarged exercise in scope. Being static is not an option. Time is always moving forward. We can't stop it, and we can't stop the effects. We need to make changes, and adversity can often be the catalyst. And the fifth trait, adversity brings profit as well as pain. Everyone gets a chance to be the hero in a potentially great story. Some step up to the role and some don't. The choice is yours. In your life, is adversity a stepping stone or a tombstone? Did the adversity in your life help you become better? Let me share with you my perspective. Long ago in my life, I looked at myself as a loser. Now, I didn't plan my life to become a loser. I had dreams when I was a kid, but there were times when I was faced with adversity, I just gave up. I quit. I ran away from the challenge and I let the challenge win. I did not want to learn from it. I wanted to be free from it. But I later learned that in order to get away from the adversity, I had to learn from it. You know, if you learn from the losses, you can't lose. I stopped running from it and began to embrace it. When you turn the corner in an adverse situation, that you are becoming better than you were before. When you turn the corner in an adverse situation, you will become better than you were before. In my life, things began to look up when I was face to face with my challenges. I looked it in the eye and told it that it would not win. You can't lose if you're learning from adversity. Now, when I was growing up, I had a friend who lived down the road from me. She was a normal, everyday kid in a neighborhood. She loved sports. Now, she played volleyball at school and was active in gymnastics. Now, after I left for the Army, I lost track of her, but she went on to the University of Nebraska and she competed in volleyball and gymnastics. After graduating, she was even the assistant coach for a year. But she had a dream. Then one day I was watching the US Olympics, and lo and behold, there she was. She was the personal coach to Shannon Miller of the United States Women's Olympic Gymnastic Team. She worked hard to get there with Shannon. I was amazed and proud of her. Now, after the Olympic Games were over with, I watched an interview with her about Shannon and Shannon's winning of 7 Olympic medals as well as world championships, despite the adversities. Her name is Peggy Liddick. And she explained that they never faced a challenge with the idea of being second. They faced it with the mindset of being a champion. I remember Peggy said, "You never win without pain. You expect pain and you have a plan for it. Now, Peggy went on to become the Australian women's gymnastic team's coach before she retired in 2016. So, what kind of story will adversity write in your life? Folks, your life has the potential to be great. If you learn from the adversity and you share your wisdom with others, you will win sometimes and you will learn sometimes. Hindsight's 2020. And shoulda, married, coulda, and they had a baby, woulda. Shoulda, coulda, woulda is the 2020 hindsight family. What lessons are you learning from your challenges? How will you apply those lessons the next time you face a challenge? In closing, let me share this Franciscan blessing with you. May God bless you with this comfort at easy answers, half-truths, and superficial relationships that you may live deep in your heart. May God bless you with anger at injustice, oppression, and exploitation of people so that you may work for justice, freedom, and peace. May God bless you with tears to shed for those who suffer pain, rejection, starvation, and war so that you may reach out your hand to comfort them and turn their pain into joy. And may God bless you with enough foolishness to believe that you can make a difference in this world so that you can do what others claim cannot be done. Now, folks, this wraps up this week, and I want to thank you for sticking with us. So join us next week as we continue our journey with Sometimes You Win and Sometimes You Learn. This has been Power to Change, and I'm Bob Bauer, your host.